Welcome everyone to the Generative AI Exchange Hackathon. I'm thrilled to be here today, kicking off this exciting event that celebrates the incredible potential of artificial intelligence, or AI as we call it now. For those who don't know me, I'm Anand, Rangarajan, a Vice President of Engineering at Google. I've spent over 25 years working in the tech industry, and it is such an exciting time now that AI is coming together, and I'm starting to see how it's starting to transform the way we live and work. I've heard about the overwhelming response to this hackathon. I was just talking to some people, and they said that we've had 6 road shows in various cities in India, and we've had more than 700 people meet us in person, trying to understand how they can use various APIs to start building solutions. So I'm super excited to see the innovative solutions that you're all building for real world business problems. This GenAI Exchange Hackathon, supported by Google, Métis Startup Hub, and Startup India, is more than a competition. It's a catalyst for innovation, and I'm thrilled to see that you're all an integral part of this. Just a few weeks back, we had IO Connect in Bangalore. More than 30,000 people came and saw all the developments which are happening in this new world of AI. It showcased some critical AI advancements like Project Vani and Matformer. And they're all partnering with the Indian startups and the Métis Startup Hub to foster AI innovation. Google's app development suite now helps developers build and run AI-enabled apps across platforms. New features include Project IDX's public beta, Firebase updates, and the Checks AI safety service. Google also gave a glimpse into AI agents like Project Oscar and AI-generated UI in Flutter, aiming to transform the way we do software development. We are seeing that generative AI is a force that's reshaping industries and literally redefining the possibilities there are for the way we live and work. From healthcare to finance, education to entertainment, AI is driving unprecedented advancements all over the world. India, with its vast pool of talent and its vibrant startup ecosystem, is poised to become a global leader in AI. This hackathon is a testament to that potential, bringing together the brightest minds to tackle real-world challenges. The GenAI Exchange Hackathon is a platform for collaboration where developers, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders come together to share ideas, build solutions, and shape the future of AI. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of our partners for supporting this critical initiative. This hackathon is unique in its focus on addressing real-world business problems faced by CEOs and industry leaders. I encourage you all to leverage this opportunity to work on challenges that matter, creating solutions that have a very tangible impact on society. You will be leveraging Google's Gemini and Google Cloud technology, the exact same tools used by nearly 90% of GenAI unicorns. This is your chance to gain hands-on experience with the most advanced AI tools that are available. Throughout the hackathon, you will receive mentorship from industry experts, Google AI leaders, and even have the opportunity to connect with top investors. I hope you're all excited for this and ready to submit to your projects. As I close, I encourage all of you to push the boundaries of what's possible, think creatively, and collaborate fearlessly. This is your opportunity to make a difference. Thank you for joining us on this exciting journey. I can't wait to see the incredible solutions you will create. Many thanks for being a part of this initiative.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Super happy to be here. Hi, I'm Ram. Hope you guys are having a great time. And that was really cool talk from Anand. I lead the Android team in India. So I thought I'll do something different today. I thought I'll mix it up a little bit and give you a bunch of examples, both as an Android team on how we have leveraged Gemini and Google's AI in building products for our consumers, but also things that we have in the platform that you can build on top of. So just fasten your seatbelts. I'll go through a bunch of use cases. Hopefully that will give you some additional inspiration for already some amazing ideas that you guys have lined up. All right. With that, I think it's not like we just started working on AI just yesterday. I think part of the thing that this technology has seen such a great prominence in the last few months or a couple of years is just about the accessibility, right? And we continue to build on the accessibility and inclusion so that everybody sort of has access to this tech. And that's what the Android platform does. We have like very strong APIs, and now our collaboration in Gemini kind of unlocks like completely new value. So like I said, I'll go through a few kind of use cases, but most of you are familiar with things like if you used a Pixel phone, like things like a magic eraser or magic editor, or being able to quickly summarize like a document. All of those things have been things that we launched over the last year. But let's dive in a little bit more deeper. So in the last few months, we thought, hey, how do we actually make sure that something like search, which is such a huge part of Google and how we talk to our consumers, becomes a little bit more interesting and visual in this new world. So we launched something called Circle to Search, and now I think it's available on many Android phones. You can actually start with a gesture, by long pressing on the sort of the home screen, and then you'll see that a gesture kind of pops up. You can circle pretty much anything. And the expectations on the customer is also very different when you do that. It's no longer text. They're sending us images, they're sending us videos. So the answers that they expect are also very different. So we worked over the last couple of years really trying to understand, what do our customers expect when they circle, for example, in this case, some sort of clothing of this child, right? And then they're actually looking for something like shopping and where they can buy this, this outfit. But sometimes they could be reading an article or a poster, which you would typically do in like Google Lens. Again, just circling or like pressing the power button kind of gives you the screenshot, and you can send the screenshot to Google Translate, and you can translate to any language. Or we also saw people doing things like homework, and it was very interesting to see how people were solving basic kind of homework. Again, like very quickly pointing the viewfinder to the textbook that they're like looking at, and boom, they're able to circle and kind of solve it. So this gave us a lot of inspiration on like how can we go much more deeper, and we've been doing that, right? So we've actually gone very deep on symbolic math, for example, and you can see like many Indian sort of academia and up to 12th standard is now solved extremely well using things like Circle to Search in Gemini. Again, this is understanding the consumer, understanding deeply what they care about. In this case, they don't just care about the answer, but they also care about the steps and the reasoning, and what was the conclusion, or what was the assumptions made during the reasoning as well. So we got a lot of feedback from customers about, yeah, thank you for like giving us like very quick answer, but we actually need a lot more like context on like how that answer was actually developed. And now customers want us to build things like quizzes and flashcards so they can kind of revise before they go take an exam or before they have to like go prep on something. So again, like very inspiring. Something like you want to share, this dog photo. Maybe in this case, you want to know what kind of breed it is. And again, you can really circle exactly what you need, and again, understand like what that breed is, or maybe you can share it with a friend or your social network. This is something that we added recently, just actually like a couple of weeks ago. Basically, people said, hey, if you can do that with text, if you can do that with images, if you can do that video. I actually was listening to a song. I don't know exactly where this song or what the song is. And we said, we can probably do the same thing for audio as well. Again, we've launched Circle to Search for audio. Again, you can just press the audio button in this case and say, okay, just tell me like what this song is about. It'll listen to a little bit of the clip and kind of match to the to the right sort of catalog in YouTube or some other places. So again, very cool. Of course, QR codes was like a big feedback we got. Like we've added UPS support and connecting to Wi-Fi, those sorts of things. So you don't again have to open and do multiple steps to sort of do this. So hopefully that's like the first chapter of like what I wanted to go through. Like, as a team, we first started to understand, what do our consumers want? how can we bring kind of the best of Google technology, which is in this case was search, and build like new paradigms. So a gesture that can actually be the input through voice, video, text, as opposed to only text, and then it's also multimodal. So I can circle something and also ask like a question about it, like how do I make this, or give me a healthier version of this, or whatever it may be. So this sort of set us up for the Gemini kind of era, and I'll walk you through where we're thinking about Gemini, show you some examples, and hopefully all of you are building on top of Gemini as well in the next few days. So this is something that we launched with the YouTube team, very, very closely working with them. Like, you're looking at a video. Sometimes you just want to know just a couple things of the video. Maybe it's too long. Maybe you just want to know, like, how to, do that like quick step, or maybe you want to just understand some research idea. Again, like it was very easy for us to integrate and kind of drive that with YouTube. Again, you long press the power button, Gemini kind of pops up, and you can start asking anything about the video. And again, there are like multiple Google products that are doing things like, helping you write, or summarize your Gmail. Those things will keep coming over the next few months. This I thought was interesting. I thought, one of the things that we heard from our community that relies on accessibility is, hey, how can you bring AI in a way that it's deeply kind of, relevant and meaningful for me? So we thought, in the past, we had to go through a lot more, a context of what the user is, viewing. And in this case, with the context of Gemini, we're able to actually do a talkback. So when a user who's suffering with either a low vision or who's blind can now just use talkback and say, tell me like what I'm looking at in this catalog, right? And again, because of the deep understanding of the catalog and understanding the semantics and being able to segment the image from the catalog, we're able to like understand what's going on with this like overall screen that they're looking at. In this case, we can say they're looking at a particular dress and also describe the characteristics of the dress. Again, in this case, we've used Gemini on the cloud or Vertex AI, something that you can use as well. And Talkback has full-blown APIs that you can integrate in your apps today. This is something that we launched recently. It's what we call Gemini Live, and the idea is basically you can sort of just talk to the assistant in a very natural tone in multiple like Indic languages, and also of course English and many other global languages as well. But this is now you're going to the next level of opportunity that you can unlock. So recently, I've actually worked on a demo where we've been able to work with somebody in the government to actually unlock citizen services where somebody doesn't have to type. They can comfortably speak in Hindi in this case and ask about certain benefits in the government very, very easily, and kind of go back and forth on a kind of a live conversation. So think of it as like a search, but it's actually talking to you like an assistant, talking to you in a way that it's very, very conversational. So we hope more and more developers will build interesting things on top of this. Live is now available in India. Please do get started on it. Like it should be as long as you install the Google app, or if it's an Android phone, you can actually have Gemini built into it and then try it out. These are another things that we did where we thought if I take a privacy first approach, maybe I have a very, very important kind of a document that I don't want to actually send to the cloud. And we actually launched something called Ask PDF. The idea is essentially, we use the AI core on the phones. Obviously, this is limited to a few phones where we're able to use them. The technology like which is on device doesn't go to the cloud, can work offline, and you can actually start conversing with this PDF as if you're asking like some questions back and forth. We've demoed this at I/O. There's been a lot of developer interest, and hopefully we inspired you to do other like features like this, where you can use the AI core on the phone and build things that are much more centered around privacy. It could be enterprise features, or it could be features that have regulated industries like health or whatnot. So hopefully that's another like idea for you. Yeah, I think that this is my last slide. One of the things that we've seen is also how fast kind of describing text to kind of images is actually moving, and we've seen like pretty advancement in Imagen 3. Please give it a shot, where very simple prompts can get you extremely amazing images. We've now expanded to multiple kind of countries. We think this can actually form like very, very cool, interesting use cases for you. as you're thinking about having some interesting and very cool user-generated images that they can use as an avatar, or it could be within their conversations, or it could be some sort of a streak if you're building some sort of reward system for the user. So it can be really fun and kind of interesting. Yeah, so those are the kind of my highlights. I just wanted to leave you with even as the Android platform team, we had to sort of innovate and think about how can Gemini kind of help us, and all of the Google AI technology can sort of propel us in new ways. I don't think we could have done many of these use cases this fast even like a couple of years ago. We've unlocked amazing value for our consumers, and we hope that all of you will as well. As you embark on this journey. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity, and wishing you guys all a massive luck. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be addressing you all for this GenAI Exchange Hackathon by Google, supported by DPIT Startup India. Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure, on behalf of Startup India DPIT, to be addressing you all. The GenAI Hackathon is extremely close to our hearts because this will lead to unlocking collective potential of millions of developers across the globe, leveraging the unparalleled capabilities of AI across business problems which India is looking to solve. When we look at the AI startups in India, as per our DPIT supported database, we do see that there are about 2,500 AI startups as of date who have created more than 24,000 jobs. What is even more heartening to see is that majority of these startups are coming from smaller cities and towns, which is a testament to the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in every part of the country. What I would like to see from this hackathon is how, with the support of Google, we can reach out to the masses to get solutions to the 17 problem statements that have come across. We at DPIT are also very excited to see how AI could be leveraged in manufacturing. We're looking at actually developing a GenAI solution that automates quality control processes in manufacturing, ensuring that consistent product quality, reducing defects by integrating existing manufacturing workflows. It should be truly made in India for the globe. Right now we are very much service focused, but going, developing and making in India is what we are looking at. So if you are a startup that is working in the manufacturing sector, we are eagerly looking forward to your solutions for us. Google has been an integral, and very important partner for DPIT, for Startup India, supporting us in multiple programs, impacting the ecosystem through various initiatives. Apart from the AI hackathon, we are very proud of supporting them, getting their support in encouraging women entrepreneurship through Mix That Matters, promoting entrepreneurship from where it all starts, the academia crowd, the university ESL, the startup school. We're happy to associate with yet another initiative with Google. My heartiest congratulations to their team for putting together this hackathon. We're looking forward to the solutions that come up. Special thank you to Apurva, Ravish, Nupur, all of you for always, doing so much for the ecosystem through which we can look forward to new solutions, create birth to new startups, and make India a nation of truly job creators than job seekers. With that, I wish you all the best for the program that is ahead, for the support that you have from all the partners, and we look forward to your active participation. Thank you so much.
All right. Cool. Looks like all of you can hear and see me. And I'm excited to talk about the hackathon. So, my name is Denver. I'm the CEO of DevFolio. And today we're going to talk about the GenAI Exchange Hackathon, which we are glad to partner with Google, and it's supported by the Métis Startup Hub and Startup India. All right. So first, let's talk about why you should be participating in this hackathon. So this is a hackathon where you get the chance to solve some real world business problems. You get to participate in the GenAI Exchange Hackathon, and you get to tackle some real world business problems faced by CEOs and industry leaders in India using generative AI. You also get to utilize cutting edge Gemini and Google Cloud technology. It's the same technology that's employed by nearly 90% of the Gen AI unicorns, and now that's in your hands to be able to utilize it to drive innovation ahead. You also get to engage with the top investors in India. They will be there to provide you mentorship and also potential investment opportunities. You last not the least, but you also get to showcase your technical expertise. So you'll be able to demonstrate your ability to solve the real world business problems, and you'll get Google Cloud skill badges for it, digital credentials, and much more. All right. And what is in it for you to be doing all of this? So, of course, we have cash prizes worth 40,000 USD up for grabs. But more than that, you get to engage with investors, you get internship and job opportunities, you get mentorship from industry leaders, Google Cloud skill badges, and you also get to participate in a showcase event. So, the top projects that are across the problem statements will be showcased on October 18th at an in person event attended by senior industry leaders, VCs, Google AI leaders, and government officials. Right. Now, let's take a quick look through the hackathon journey. So, right now, we are in phase one, where you get to register for the hackathon, form your teams, and choose from 10 problem statements which are out there. The project submissions started September 13th onwards. And before that, we also had some city roadshows across 6 cities: Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Chennai, and Pune. You have time until 2nd of October to submit your projects on DevFolio. Moving on to the phase two, from October 6th to October 10th, you will get a chance to fine tune your prototype, and you'll also get mentorship for the same. The top 5 teams from each problem statement will qualify for intensive one on one mentorship from industry experts, Google engineers, and VCs. Finally, these top teams will get the opportunity to be judged by an esteemed jury between October 11th and October 14th. And then the top teams across all the problem statements will be showcased on October 18th at an in-person event, like I mentioned earlier, in the Delhi NCR office of Google, in the presence of senior industry leaders, VCs, Google AI leaders, and government officials. All right, let's talk about the evaluation criteria for this. So first up, you'll be judged on the technicality of your project. What that means is, does the project work as intended? Projects that are fully functional and utilize the hackathon time effectively will receive higher scores. You'll also be judged on your originality. How original is the idea? Truly innovative projects, if they solve a new problem or improve upon an existing solution, will be scored the highest. You'd also be judged on your practicality. Is the project actually useful and accessible? Solutions that have practical applications in the real world and are user friendly will be favored. You'll also be judged on the aesthetics. Is the interface intuitive and easy to use? Projects with well designed, easy to navigate interfaces that require minimal explanation will earn top marks. Last but not the least is the wow factor. Now, this is something a little hard to quantify, but it's more about if your project leaves a lasting impression. Even if a project isn't perfect in many other areas, those projects that demonstrate exceptional creativity, effort, and ingenuity within the hackathon's timeframe will be awarded. All right. So here's the link to all the challenges for the hackathon. I'm just going to pause for a bit here. You can whip out your QR code, or you could visit the link to check out all the challenges for the hackathon. All right. Moving on, here's the link to the resources for the hackathon. So if you're just getting started, this is exactly the place you should go to access all the resources for the hackathon. I'm just going to pause here for a moment. All right, I hope you got that. When you want to interact with other people who are also part of the hackathon, much like yourselves, you can join the GenAI Exchange Hackathon Discord. And here's where you can do that. If you have any queries, you can write to us on genai.hackathon@devfolio.co. All right. And last but not the least, if you're watching this and still haven't registered for the hackathon, here's your call to action. You can register for the hackathon on the website. Here's the QR code again, where you can register for the hackathon. All right, folks. So it was my pleasure to introduce the GenAI Exchange Hackathon to you all. And I can't wait to see all the problems that you solve and all the innovation that we see come out of the hackathon. All right. Looks like we can check out some questions you folks have. All right. So one of the question is that if you'll provide real-time data, or is it different partners like Chroma, Big Basket that will provide their companies real data sets? So the real-time data is you're free to use any data set which is already out there. And I'd suggest going through the problem statements that are already listed on the challenges section. And each of them has an explanation on where you can find the relevant data sets. If you can't find the data sets there, then you are free to use any data set from public sources. Right. Let me try and check out more questions. All right. The question is what to submit in phase 1. So in phase 1, we are expecting you to submit a prototype of your solution. So you can you can get started with your API key, and then the project that you intend to build, you can submit a description of it along with a demo video, and also the link to the code. So you can submit all of that through Devfolio, and that's what you need to submit in phase 1. Right. And somebody's asking if they have already applied, but the form is asking for a code at a public repository like GitHub. Since the innovation is patent applied, we cannot expose your code. Well, we would need the code to be public, just because it's just easier for us to access, and we wouldn't have run into any access issues while doing that. That being said, like this data that you submit through the hackathon, it only comes to Devfolio, and it's passed on to the partners and the folks who are judging it. So you needn't worry about it, going out to the general public. I would still say please please submit a public repository. If you still have major concerns, you can always reach out to us over email. So, so somebody's asking about communicating with problem setters or employees to learn more about a challenge. So what I think is like uh, like while that is fair, we are trying to get more technical points of contact to the Discord community, and we'll keep you posted. And like what I would still say is that it also opens up the possibility of you getting creative with what your interpretation of the problem statement is, because the more specific the problem statement is, there's less chance of exploring the surface area. All right. And somebody asks if students can select problem statements which are not included in the students only section. The answer is yes, you can select problem statements which are not included in the students only section too. All right. A Discord link to ask queries, I shared that earlier in my presentation. You can just loop back and check that out, or we'll put it up on the YouTube shortly. All right. Looks like that's it for the questions for now. Please feel free to reach out to us either on Discord or on email, and we'd be happy to answer your queries. Looking forward again to some kick-ass projects being built. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, folks. Hope this is all working. This is my first time using this tool, but super excited to chat with you all about getting started with the Gemini API. Just to start off with quick intros, I'm Kat. I'm a product manager for Google AI Studio, and we have Josh here as well, who is an amazing developer relations expert in all things Google AI and ML. And we're super excited to see what you folks build over the course of the next few weeks using the Gemini API and all the other tools. So just to get started, I think you've probably heard the term Gemini used in a ton of different ways. So Gemini for consumers is our experience that you can find at gemini.google.com, as well as integrated into things like Gmail and Docs, etc. That's really focused on asking Gemini questions, getting a chat style response, etc., and integrating across the different tools you may use. But for today, we're going to be focusing on the developer experience, and two tools that we're going to be diving into are Google AI Studio, as well as the Gemini API. And then for enterprise scenarios, we also have an offering called Vertex AI that's hosted on Google Cloud that you folks will be hearing about later in the week as well. So diving into the Gemini API, Gemini can take a ton of different inputs, such as system instructions, text, images, speech, video, etc., and then ultimately gives you an output that can be in the form of text if it's a simple question like, what's the weather like today? Or it could make a function call. So you could have a function that checks the day's weather and the model could output the result of that function call. Or you can also output in JSON structure. So this is super useful if you're building an application and want your output to be in a very standard schema. You can define that up front and Gemini will always respond with that schema. And we'll dive into that a bit more on the AI Studio front and as well on the API end in a bit. But what's special about Gemini in particular compared to other large language models is its context window. And the context window is the amount of information the model has access to when it's generating a response. So when Gemini 1.5 Pro and Flash were launched, they launched with a 1 million context window, which was already a huge leap for the industry and very unique. And then recently we also updated that context window to 2 million. And I know that sounds a bit weird to measure things in tokens. So if we put that in a bit more concrete terms, 2 million or 2 million tokens can look like 60,000 lines of code, all your text messages from the last 5 years, obviously a bit of variance depending on the person there, but on average, as well as 8 English language novels, 200 podcast episodes, 2 hours of video. So a ton of information that you can give to Gemini to help it generate really high quality responses based on that information. And with that, this opens up a ton of unique use cases across text, video, and audio. But ultimately, since this context window is so industry leading, we're still learning a lot of the unique and creative ways that this context window can be leveraged. And so we're super excited to see what applications you folks build that may be leveraging the large context window in new and unique ways. And we'd really love to hear about them as they come along. And as we talked about earlier, that sort of spectrum from consumer to enterprise, what tools do we have across Google? We're going to start off with looking at Google AI Studio, which is a really great place to get started with the Gemini API to help you understand what's possible with Gemini, how to configure some of the model parameters, as well as just compare the models that Google has available. So diving into what exactly AI Studio is, AI Studio is the simplest way to get started with the latest Gemini models. You can create, test, and save and share prompts, as well as generate starter code for your application. And this is ultimately where you're going to go to generate an API key. And we'll walk through this together with Josh, but I also just want to show you folks a quick demo of AI Studio to get you familiar with the key concepts. So let me switch over. So this is AI Studio at a glance. These 2 buttons in your top left are going to be the most important. Your get your API key, and we can take a quick look at this. You'll be able to create an API key in one click here, and then get started with that API key either in your code, or you can go directly to creating a new prompt. And this prompt is where you can ask questions of Gemini as well as configure things about the model. So we could say, what is the most popular dish in Japan? And what this will do is talk to the model and generate a response. And what's useful about AI Studio is you can also see things like the response time that the model took to generate that response, as well as the token count that input and output utilized. And token count helps you estimate things like cost, which is obviously super important. As well in AI Studio, this right side panel is where you can configure a ton of different settings about the prompt that you're running. So you can pick things like what model you want to utilize, adjust the temperature of the model, use tools such as JSON mode, which I mentioned earlier. So if we turn this on, we can edit the schema that we want our output to be generated in, and Gemini will always respond in that schema. As well, we have other tools like code execution, function calling, and then a ton of more advanced settings for folks who have gone deeper into LLM land and want to leverage things like top K and top P. As well, this is where you can access the get code option. So this is what I mentioned, provides you with sample starter code to get you started using the API. And from here, you can copy this code, check out the docs, etc. We also just launched a new feature called compare mode. So if I go to create a new prompt and select this compare option, and this just launched literally just on Friday. So super new, super fresh, excited to see how you folks use it. I can select 2 different models that I want to compare against each other and ask the same question to both these models. So if I ask that same question of what is the most popular dish in Japan, I can compare Flash, which is our quicker and less expensive model, against Pro, which is our more advanced model. So we can see right away that Flash responded a bit quicker, 1.3 seconds, and whereas Pro took 7 seconds, but Pro also has a lot more thorough of a response and helps me understand the answer a bit better. So you can use this tool to play around with tons of different models and see ultimately what's going to be the best fit for your use case and your needs. The last thing I want to call out in AI Studio is our prompt gallery. So our prompt gallery is where you can get started with tons of different sample prompts to understand all the capabilities of Gemini. So for instance, we can check out a JSON schema example. So we can see here our schema is set to output in this specific format. And when we ask Gemini to generate a list of cookie recipes, we see the output in JSON. And so again, AI Studio, from here, you can go directly into the API and see some of the examples that Josh is going to cover. So I'll hand it off to Josh to dive deeper into the API.
Thanks, Kat. That was great. So, hi everyone. My name is Josh, and I will quickly show you how to get started with the Gemini API. So I just have like 1 or 2 slides on the deck here, which I know is not in presenter mode, but no worries. And then I'm just going to switch into some demos so you can see how to get started. So I know this is probably on YouTube, but if you have your phones or you want to take a screenshot, these are the 3 links that you will need to get started. The first is to Google AI Studio, and that's the really cool user interface that Kat just showed. The next link is to the developer documentation, and I'll show you that in a sec. And the third link is to the cookbook. And that's basically a GitHub repo that has lots of cool examples that we're working on. And if you'd like to submit any more, that would be super welcome. So exactly like, I think one thing that Kat said that's really interesting, one of the reasons that we're super pumped to do hackathons like this is I think just as a field, we're all learning like what's the best use cases for these really long context windows. And we'd love to see kind of like what applications you develop and how they can help people. So one cool thing about Google AI Studio and the Gemini API is we're shipping really fast and we're shipping all the time. And that includes better models all the time and new features too. And you know what? So instead of just talking about this on the slide, I'm going to show you a couple examples and how you can use things like basically the code equivalent of what Kat was showing you in AI Studio. So let me just dive right into it. So this is our developer documentation, and I want to show you basically where the Gemini docs are. So this is ai.google.dev, and this has all the documentation for the Gemini developer API. So if you go over here to the Gemini API, and then the docs, you'll see lots of code, and these contain walkthroughs of exactly how to get started. We have examples for Python, Node, Go, a bunch of other cool languages, both server-side and client-side, as well as examples for REST and curl. We have all sorts of docs here that will walk you through about all the features of the API and how to use it, all the capabilities. And if you want complete end-to-end code examples, you can find a bunch in the docs themselves, which are really great. Some you can open up directly in Colab. Some you can find things that you can copy and paste into the editor of your choice, or you can go to the cookbook. Again, the URL for the cookbook, it's Google/cookbook. And if you'd like instructions on how to get started, by the way, help us out. Please star the cookbook. That would be appreciated. I'm trying to get to 5K, so that'd be awesome. If you scroll down to the README, we've got instructions on how you can get rocking and rolling. And the cookbook basically contains 2 things. It contains quick starts, and all of these are complete end-to-end code that will walk you through how to use a feature that you're interested in. So there's 2 things we saw briefly in AI Studio, and I'll just jump into an advanced one. Let's just go straight to the fun stuff. So on the tab in the right in AI Studio, we saw options for function calling and JSON schema. And I'll show you both of these. And what I'm going to do really quickly I'm not going to make you watch me as I install all the client libraries and stuff like that, but I'm going to open this up in Google Colab. I'm going to get an API key. So I'll show you exactly how to get started. So the Gemini API is API key-based authentication. I'm just going to delete mine and start from scratch in case you haven't seen this before. So there's this cool feature in Colab that manages your keys. It's kind of hidden. Click the little key icon on the left. Click Add a New Secret. Allow access to the notebook. And we're going to call this Google API Key. To get an API key, I'm going to go to Google AI Studio, get API key, surprise. I've already got one here. If you don't have one, you can click Create API Key. It's like 2 clicks. There's no credit card. You don't need a Google Cloud account. This is just the Gmail. Copying my key. And what I'm doing here is I'm putting it in my notebook. Some of you may know this already, but please do not save the API key in the notebook itself. Because if you have billing enabled, you don't want to save your API key and then accidentally save your notebook to GitHub. So when you store it here in Colab, it connects it to your notebook, but it's not saved there. So no worries. To install the Python SDK, it's pip install Google Generative AI. You'll see some extra text here just because we have a version of this installed in Colab by default. And this is just to save time, so you don't need to install it unless you need a newer version. Basically, once you have your API key, install the Python SDK. Let me just zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. You can import google.generative AI. This is where we configure the API key. And here it's pulling it from Google Colab, so it's not stored in your notebook. And now I'm going to show you an advanced example. So here's where we're working with function calling. And the reason that I'm showing you this is I would love to see like more cool applications coming from the hackathon of what you can do with this capability. And function calling basically is a way of saying, in your prompt, you can send functions to Gemini, and then Gemini can answer and a question like natural language, and Gemini will reply by sending you back the name of the function that you could call to answer your question, along with the parameters. And so this is an example called Lightbot. And here you can imagine that we're building like a home automation system that can control the lights in your house. So what we have here, we have a few different functions in Python. One that says enable the lights. And here, we're just going to print the lights have been turned on. Another that says turn the lights off. And we have one that we wrote intentionally in a complicated way. So this function here is set the color of the lights. And in the function signature, instead of having a string like yellow, green, red, we included an RGB value. So red, green, blue. And what I'm showing you here, I wanted to go into like an advanced example. And this is a little complicated, but just to show you that even with something fancy, it just takes a couple lines of code to call the API. So what we have here, we have a list of our functions in a Python list. So turn the lights on, turn them off, set the color. We have a system instruction for Gemini. So basically this is saying like, you are a lighting system bot, you can turn the lights on and off and blah, 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 blah. You can set the colors. And here we're creating a model, which is Gemini 1.5 Pro. And we're giving it the system instruction and we're passing it a list of functions that it can call. And now we're starting a chat. And just to scroll down a little bit, I'm going to skip over just a little bit of, oops. Cool. I will look into that in a minute. We might have a bug in this, but I'll check that out. Let me go back to GitHub. Also, by the way, if you find any bugs in any of our examples or anywhere, please raise an issue on GitHub. That's super helpful. We also have a developer forum, discuss.ai.google.dev. And if you have a bug in anything, please let us know so we can look into it. So this is just looking to the notebook from when it worked. But basically, once you give Gemini the functions, you can start a chat that says something like, light this place up. And what happens is that the response you get from the model is actually the signature of the function that it would like to call. So enable the lights. And a cool thing too, is if you give the model a prompt that says something like, make this place purple, you get a response back from Gemini that has the function that it would like to call, and you get values for the parameters. And here's what I'm showing you is that it automatically understood that one of the parameters sets the color of the lights, and it understood that that's an RGB value, and it's returning you that correct value for purple. So that's function calling. There's other things too. So let's see. We just a few days ago added structured outputs. And so this is for the JSON schema, which is really, really cool. So we have JSON mode, which basically means, as you might guess, the model replies in JSON. But what's really interesting is you can actually now give it a schema, and the model will reply with that schema. So basically here, let me show you what I mean. The old way of doing JSON mode, if you wanted some, this is an example here where, again, we're creating a Gemini model. This is Flash. By the way, Flash is awesome, and it has a ridiculously good free tier. So please, please, please use Flash. Use it a lot. We're really proud of it and excited to see what you build with it. But here what we're doing is we're asking for some cookies, and we want Flash to respond with JSON. This is the old way of doing it, where you just stick it in the prompt. We're not doing anything fancy, and we're giving it a schema, but here we just hope that it replies using that schema, and it often will. But much better than that is you can actually now create a schema in Python, or you can specify the schema in JSON if you want. But here we're doing the schema in Python, and there's just a little bit more code, but here we're asking for some recipes, and we want it to reply with these fields. And you can now specify the schema when you call the model. So you have your prompt, but now you're actually giving it the schema in JSON. And this way you can guarantee that you actually get a response in JSON following your schema. Excuse me, which is super helpful. Another thing that was recently added to JSON schemas, we also have a good example for enumerations, which is basically if you have a schema and there's certain strings and only acceptable string value, there's like a fixed list of strings that you'd like to accept. A good example for this is, please don't do this, but maybe you're making a prompt to grade a student's paper. And the grades can be like A+, A minus, B+, so on and so forth. You can write an enum such that you can guarantee that Gemini will always give you one of those values for the schema. And this is an example where we're trying to classify this, this instrument, and we're basically saying it can be one of these 5 values. And again, we're passing our JSON schema when we prompt the model. So we're saying, what instrument do we have here? And you can see that it will reply based on one of those schema attributes. So that's a really cool feature too. And then if we were doing this live and I could see you, I would love to basically ask like, what's most interesting to you? And then I would walk you through a bunch of our cool cookbooks. But here, let me show you very briefly how to work with large files for the large context. So we have a 2 million token context window, and we tried to make it as easy as possible for you to work with large files. So this is an audio example. And here, I'm just showing you that it's basically a few lines of code. So say you have a WAV file or an MP3 file, and you'd like to include it in your prompt. And the code here is the same for video, and it's the same for large PDFs. Basically, here we're just downloading some sample MP3 from the web. It doesn't matter. But to work with an audio file in the API, basically, when you write your prompt, you structure your prompt as a list. And this is the text part of your prompt, and this is a file that you'd like to reference. So if you have a file, like a large MP3 or a video, you can upload it to the Gemini API with 1 line of code, upload file. And here we have, this is free transient file storage. So you can check the docs for the exact details, but I think right now your files last for probably 48 hours. It's upload only, not download. When you upload the file, you basically get a file reference back that you can include in your prompts. So here we can say, listen carefully to the audio file, blah, 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 or whatever prompt you want, and you can pass it a file reference. And that's how you can work with very large files. And it's exactly the same. You'll see in the cookbook, we have a video quick start and a PDF quick start, and it's exactly the same code. In this case, this is like a kind of a lame example, to be honest, but what we're doing is we're just uploading like a 45-minute clip of President John F. one of Kennedy's speeches, and we're just asking the model to summarize it. But again, the reason we're doing this hackathon is surely there's like 50 million awesome things that you can do with audio, and we'd love to understand what you come up with. So let me see. If you're brand new to this, which I imagine a lot of you are, we've got additional quick starts too that can help you out. If you're running into common errors, to see how many tokens are in your prompts before you send them, more details on how to work with the file API that I just showed you. Gemini also has really, really powerful embedding models. So in addition to 1.5 Pro and Flash, we've got a really strong embeddings model. Please use it. You can use it for great things like RAG and whatnot. And there's all sorts of cool stuff in here. So please take a look and have fun. Oh, last thing to mention too, in AI Studio and the API, you can also fine tune both a 1.5 Pro and 1.5 Flash. And that's so you can basically tune a model that's ready for your task. By the way, I'm excited about this stuff. I have like lots to show you and tell you. Again, like these are the 3 links that will help you get started. If you make an API key for this hackathon, please use this link. It helps us track what you're up to. Please have fun with this. Like we've loved building it and would love to see you use it and do cool things. So I think that's all I have for right now. Thanks for listening to my coffee infused quick overview of the API, and we're happy to take any questions. And in case we can't see please leave them on discuss.ai.google.dev, issues on GitHub. And if we can see questions, great, thanks. So we'll be able to take questions here too. So one question we got is, can we use open source models along with the Gemini APIs? Yes, absolutely. So on ai.google.dev, Google also has a model called Gemma. And the Gemma family is our open model family. We're really proud of it. And that's basically a large language model that you can download and run on your local machine or on premises on your own servers. And you have full control over that. It's not cloud-based, it's purely local. And you can absolutely, you can basically write Python code to use both of these models together. Maybe there's certain prompts you want to send to the API, which might be more powerful and has larger models that you don't need to set up and install yourself. Maybe there's some types of things that you'd like to run locally, in which case Gemma is the right fit. But what we're trying to do is provide the right tools for you. So one question is where can I run the code? So there's a couple different places you can run it. What the environment I was showing you in the demo is Google Collaboratory, or Colab for short, which is one of my favorites. I really like it. But you can also run that code in any editor that you like. So if you've tried IDX, which is a new code editor from Google, it's really cool. Of course, you can also write it in plain text and run it in the terminal as a Python script. We also have examples both in the docs and in the cookbook for REST. If you'd like to see how things work under the hood, you can use REST. And we have SDKs for server-side Python, Node, and Go. And we have client-side SDKs for Android with Java and Kotlin, for Swift and iOS. And I believe, forgive my ignorance here, I'm really just a Python developer. But for folks that do mobile stuff and like cool things like that, also Flutter and Dart. But I'm just a Python person, so forgive my ignorance.
I'm also just a Python person, so.
But yes, you can absolutely use Java. So what are the differences between Google AI Studio and Gemini? So I know we have a lot of different things named Gemini. Roughly, Google AI Studio is a playground for the Gemini API. It's more than a playground too, because in Google AI Studio, of course, you can get API keys and you can fine-tune models. So there's some really powerful features in there. And it's function calling. Like, I know I'm excited about it. It's kind of new and cool, and so is JSON schema. So AI Studio is more powerful than a playground, but it's roughly a way to experiment with the models in your browser, and then you can do your development in the Gemini API. What is a token exactly? So a token is a word piece. So Gemini knows many words, but you can imagine like maybe there's a funky word that it hasn't seen before, or a rare word like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So that's like this giant word. And so there's a longer explanation to this, but basically, if the way you write a large language model is that it knows every possible word in the vocabulary, including really long, rare ones like supercalifragilistic, blah, 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 the models become really slow and hard to train. So instead, we work with word tokens, which are basically like a word piece. So if you broke up supercalifragilistic, it might be super could be a token. And like the idea is that if you don't know the whole word, but you do know the tokens, like Gemini knows super, then you can kind of like guess the meaning of the larger word. So a token's a word chunk, and it's a technique that's used to train large language models more efficiently. You don't really need to think about them as a developer too much, except for how many tokens are in your prompt. And in the docs, I think we tell you on average like how many tokens there are to a word. I think it's about 2 tokens to a word, give or take.
Yeah, it's usually 3 to 4 characters roughly per token.
Thanks. By the way, Kat, feel free to jump at any time. I'm just a coffee infused, kind of going through questions as I see them.
No, you're good.
But
yeah, the one that just came in, does it transcribe and process audio directly? Like if we want to check fluency of the speaker in the language he is speaking, can we rely on it? Actually, Josh, do you want to go first?
yeah, so to be honest, so it does absolutely transcribe audio. To be honest, audio is a little bit tricky. So you're asking a really excellent question, like what exactly can you do with audio? What I would do here is check the developer documentation for the use cases that are officially supported. Off the top of my head, I don't believe this is one that is officially supported. So I can't tell you how well it will work with this, but it's really interesting. I will take a note to see if we can update that to give you more detail. Do we have Java SDKs? No, but we do. If you're using Android, yes. I don't believe we have a standalone Java SDK. However, there are 2 versions of the Gemini API. The one that Kat and I just showed you is Google AI Studio and the Developer API. And this is the best way to get started. It's the fastest and easiest way to get started. If you're an enterprise developer, Google Cloud has a version of the Gemini API, which is awesome. They have some additional really cool enterprise features, and they might have a Java SDK for server side. So if you're a Java developer, then check out Google Cloud.
Cool. Do I need to set up billing for using AI Studio? No. So AI Studio is totally free. Everything you do in AI Studio is free. And then from AI Studio, you can create an API key. By default, that will be using the free tier. And in our docs, it lists the pricing information and the rate limits for our free tier. And then after that, if you so wish, you can choose to set up billing to get higher rate limits. And that would be paid, but initially to use AI Studio, totally free. You can use the free tier of the API without setting up billing. And then if you so wish, you can then use the paid tier and go ahead and set up billing.
I'll also mention the free tier is really, really generous. Like I've done a bunch of hackathons, and even in hackathons, it's rare that students need to sign up for the paid tier. So like rock and roll with the free tier, you can get pretty far. If you build something in production, that's probably when you're going to start exploring the paid tier. So how can we have free access to all the documentation about Gemini instead of free credits? So basically everything we just showed you, you don't need cloud credits at all. It's free by default. So if you go to aistudio.google.com or ai.google.dev, the Gemini API there has a free tier. You don't even need a credit card to set it up. You just go to Google AI Studio, click get an API key, and you're ready to rock and roll. So there's a question here about getting real-time data with Gemini. So with the API, we do support streaming responses. So like when Kat was showing you those cool demos of AI Studio, you saw how the output was kind of like progressively printing out and displaying. You can do streaming for output through the API. Right now, we don't support streaming for input, but you can get streaming output. And that's a way that you can build like more fluid applications that feel really responsive. There's another good question. Can we have system instruction prompts? And I know I went super fast through the demos. Yes, inside the cookbook and in the docs, we have a system instructions example. And also AI Studio also supports system instructions in the prompts. And a system instruction, for folks who don't know, is basically just a special prompt that you send in addition to your regular prompt, which configures the model and you tell it what its job is. So you could say like, you're a coding expert and your job is to like help the user debug their code. and then you could send them code and a question in the prompt. I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks everyone so much. Yeah, have fun developing.
Thank you, folks.
All right, folks. Thanks everyone for joining in. And stay tuned for the next sessions. We have some exciting sessions lined up over the week for you. And you can find all of them on the website. You can just go find the session like as for the day, and you can just join them. Thank you, folks. Thanks a lot.